I'm more and more convinced that Sung is getting baited bad. Sung is getting baited bad into going to these dungeons. It's one of those things where I'm curious because, yes, technically Sung is doing this whole thing as a player and getting all these items and getting leveled up and everything like that. But the question mark is, can he use anything that he has on other people? So when you have this whole scenario where literally, again, the system I feel like is baiting him going, ooh, an elixir of life. You want this, right? Come into this dungeon. You can get the elixir of life that cures everything. And it's just so convenient that your mother has an affliction that nobody knows how to cure. And this can cure it. I wonder if you will come to the dungeon. Yeah, sure enough, he's like, all right, gotta go to the dungeon. Interesting, though. The Manhwa doesn't have any mention of that, at least so far. I mean, at some point in the Manhwa, as he goes, if he does go in the dungeon, I think he's actually going in the dungeon in the Manhwa. At least, like I said before, I read up to what the episode ends at, so I can kind of see what's different. And there is something in the Manhwa that I don't even want to mention here. I'll mention at the end of the episode or this video so that people that don't want to know don't know. But even in the Manhwa, it seemed like he was going in there because he kind of defeated the Cerberus a lot easier in the Manhwa. So I don't know. It seems like this could be a point in which they might deviate from the Manhwa. I've heard some people say that it's closer to the novel, but I think I read that it's supposed to be based off the web manga, so who knows at this point. But yes, technically when he got the key in the anime, it said that it has like potential of getting the elixir of life. Again, the key doesn't mention that in the manhwa. He goes in there and beats the Cerberus. Again, he beats it better. And the manhwa, it doesn't give him the crafting recipe. So I think in the anime, it's sort of implying more so that he's being baited in there. And something that I wasn't getting an indication from the manhwa, which, yes, is the whole thing that I opened this up with. I really do feel at this point Sung is getting baited bad, which again makes sense because it seems like the system is trying to create a player and trying to push him to getting stronger. Do all these push-ups, do all this running, do this, go in this dungeon, here's a key, go in that dungeon, level up, all that kind of stuff. Again, even with the guys turning on him in the dungeon, go kill them. It's trying to keep him alive. And even with the Cerberus fight, it's constantly alerting him. You're gonna die. Or warning, stop losing. You might want to get out of there, something like that. But I still feel like it is all seemingly a setup that this system. Again, my theory has been this statue, or at least some being in this other world, is trying to build up Sung so that he probably defeats somebody else. Which makes me kind of question: is this demon castle one of their adversaries? Are they bringing him there? Are they giving him a key to... Essentially, each one of these keys that he's getting, are they essentially keys to getting into location where there's somebody that this god or whatever of this other world is trying to get rid of? So, okay, this god of this other world, there's a demon king of this other group that he doesn't like. All right, let me send him there and have him take out that group. That's what I'm getting a feeling of. And it's technically what my feeling is, this entire system that is surrounding Sung. I could be overthinking this way too much, but this is what I hope this series is doing, because this is actually kind of clever. Maybe this whole system that's surrounding him is literally just this god or whatever, just trying to bestow him blessings and giving him items so that he can get stronger. And in that effect, yes, this key is an actual key to opening up to get to this location, but all the flavor text on there is literally these little things that it's trying to bait him with. Like, oh, let me put on there that there's an elixir that he can get. Then he'll definitely go in that dungeon. Sure enough, he goes in the dungeon. All right, he killed the Cerberus. Okay, let me give him, through the system, let me give him an item. Because there's like this different reality of, okay, our world, going through these portals, physically going through these portals to this other world, physically. But what's the thing that's kind of outside of that? It's the system that's surrounding him. It's the prompts and everything. I think all that stuff is just whatever being is trying to manipulate him and give him items. Because honestly, there's no... The screens themselves aren't physical. Nobody else sees them. Only he sees them. So it's just like this fabricated thing in his own mind that has this system that has all the stuff. And maybe when he selects to get the sword out of it from Kim, then the possibility that, yes, at that point, it's just the system just giving it to him. But it is curious, and I think with this elixir of life, it seems to be solidifying more and more and more that this is baiting. They're baiting him to getting in there, getting stronger, and all that kind of stuff. Otherwise, there would no reason that he'd push himself this much. But yeah, there's quite a few other things that are very curious about this episode. For one thing, I think they did a better job in the manhwa of kind of explaining what this guy's brother is all about. And obviously, it indicated in the anime that, yes, he got notification that his brother is dead, that his whole party was wiped out. 2 people remained, which were Sinins. Even he got the indication that, yes, this Song and this Yo, both of them were temporaries that joined his party. And it seems like he's paranoid enough to think that my brother would never lose his life protecting somebody else. And if these 2 weaklings survived, that doesn't add up. The only reason that these 2 guys would survive, my brother would die, is if 1, he saved their lives, which he wouldn't do. He wouldn't do that for weaklings. Or 2, they double-crossed him. They set up a trap and got my brother killed. So it obviously, at that point, kind of gives me a little bit more indication that, yeah, I can see why this guy would immediately assume Sung did something wrong. But the other thing that the manhwa puts in more better perspective is, yes, in the anime at some point he asks his assistant, what would happen if I killed somebody? What would happen if I went to another country and killed somebody? And then she starts getting into all the, like, the Hunter Association trees and all that kind of stuff. What is actually happening here is she implies to him strictly that Korea, which is where they were at, Korea does not have this agreement. What did she call it? It was the Indian Treaty of Criminal Hunters. They have not concluded the Indian Treaty of Criminal Hunters. Thus, what she tells this guy's brother, which is an S rank, if you go there and you killed somebody, you're not going to be prosecuted in Korea. They would send you back to America, which is where he's at, where the American government would handle you. They would prosecute you. And due to their negotiations, you wouldn't really see much out of it. And I think that's probably why this other guy, which I think is Wo, the one that was brought the paperwork at the very opening of the episode where they were saying, you need to look into this. This Sung guy, which, yes, we had to run into before, he was one of the 2 survivors. And yeah, one of the people that died in that dungeon was this guy. And yes, his brother is this S rank. I think the reason why it piqued Wo's interest is possibly because, yeah, he knows this S rank's going to come over here and kill somebody. Like, yes, here's this whole incident that happened the other day, and this Dong Suk guy died, and yeah, his brother's probably going to want to get revenge. And I think they know that, and I think they know there's going to be some sort of, essentially, conflict that's going to happen between these 2 countries. Like, somebody's going to come from another country and kill somebody in this country, and that's not something good. So I think that's probably why he wants to look into it, is because he knows that this guy's going to take advantage of how this treaty was not signed, and he's probably going to want to take out one of our hunters, and we don't need that. We don't want to see that. But again, it does go back to my usual joke that I have of this series of how terrible they do any kind of investigation, and if they did better investigation, they probably would know what's going on. But still, the fight itself, I'm jumping all over the place. Yeah, I did like the opening episode, or part of this episode. The interesting thing that happened very different in the anime. There's so much different stuff in the manhwa version. But I did find it kind of interesting. It doesn't really change too much. That in the opening segment with Sung coming home and, giving his sister some snacks and some good chicken and everything, they have some good food. He actually has money for once. Talking about how he has money to pay for the bills for a little bit. Things are going well. She does ask him about the whole raid and how it went, and he's mentioning that I guess it went well. I'm still waiting. But yes, it kind of gets a little bit into his mindset of the incident that obviously taking people's lives, which I think at this point it seems like it's kind of taking the direction with Sung's character, Jinhoo's character, in that he's not really feeling too bad about what he did. Now, obviously he questions it, but at the same time, it seems to be implying the idea that because of how powerful he is, because he's getting stronger, it's not affecting him like it typically would. At the time, I didn't hesitate. If anything, I resented them for thinking they had a chance against me. I guess that's kind of a, kill or be killed kind of mentality there. But I think it's kind of interesting that it doesn't seem like it's really kind of bugging him too much. Instead, he's just more thinking about the fact that the gap was too wide, but yet it was really easy. I did it, didn't hesitate. And yeah, technically, if it happens again, I won't hesitate because my priority is my family. So I don't know. It seems to be implying this idea that because he's leveling, it's giving him a sense of boldness. which could be the idea that because he's getting stronger, because he's getting so powerful, he's losing that sense of what's right and wrong, which could be an interesting direction to take the character. I don't know if that's the direction they're taking. Is it the stats that's affecting the way that he thinks about the situation? Is it because he's getting drunk on his power? I could totally see it being an aspect of him getting drunk on his power. The idea that he's getting so strong and things are so easy to take out, he doesn't feel the weight of his decisions. Like the idea that all I have to do is flick a finger and somebody disappears, it's less impactful than I had to sit there and beat them and beat them and beat them until they finally clunk out. That could be the direction they take, and that could be actually an interesting route to go. But no, when he realizes that he's drinking and it's detoxifying, in the manhwa, he immediately goes to his room and he drinks the venom there. I was like, when I was reading that, I'm like, wait, he did it way back here? That's a bit different. Because yes, technically in the anime, it's more implying the idea that it was like a last resort. Which again, I think the Cerberus fight in the anime was a lot more weight on the idea that he's going to lose. In the manhwa, he's just kind of throwing the thing around and beating the crap. But yeah, he's getting hurt. And yes, he gets really low HP. But he just kind of beats it. He doesn't go to the shop. He doesn't drink the venom in order to kind of strengthen himself up. He literally just destroys the thing. And I think in the anime, it did a better job of kind of portraying the fact that he was getting beat down. Honestly, watching the anime, I thought he was going to lose. I thought he was going to end up leaving, which is sort of a problem that I have, is that I kind of was hoping this would be the first moment that Jinhoo gets kind of his face rubbed in the ground. Because ever since he became literally being able to level up, he hasn't really faced a challenge. Yes, he gets beat up, but he's never lost. That's the key thing. Now, granted, in this type of setting, loss is death. But it's still with the option of being able to teleport out. He could lose and get out of there, or he could just retreat and try to fight something else, get stronger, and then come back. So I was a little bit disappointed in the fact that this wasn't as difficult of a fight to go through than you would kind of expect. I kind of want him to lose once. Just kind of show that he's not OP. I do like that. I do think it's doing a better job than most shows in showing a struggle, but at the same time, he's not technically losing ever. And I do kind of want him to have a loss. But I don't know, maybe that'll be the dungeon, if the castle, if he does actually go back. I think I covered everything else. Like I said, I'm kind of curious to see where else he's going to go in order to level up, to come back in order to fight the castle. I do think it is a good idea that he leaves, because he is definitely in a situation where he's not doing very well. The Cerberus fight, again, in the anime kind of portrayed it that he was really struggling, but he does want to go back because of that elixir. He does have that thing is pulling him that direction. Oh, here's the recipe. Now, get the parts for it. It's in the castle. Time to go in the castle. Giving him still a kind of a breather point, but still interesting. So let's get into the conversation with Jinhoo. And this is where I want to get some slight spoilers in here, because the anime kind of portrayed this scene a bit different than the manhwa. The manhwa technically has a conclusion that they might get into the next episode, so I don't want to spoil things for people. So you've had that warning. The manhwa does imply what's going to happen after this conversation. But yeah, Jinhoo comes and meets with Jinhoo. And yes, Jinhoo, still calling him boss. Hey, boss, I need your help with something, boss. Definitely kind of portrayed Jinhoo as being a lot more menacing in the manhwa. Like, just the stares that he gives Jinhoo kind of indicate it also kind of plays in Jinhoo's mind as he's sitting here across from somebody that he believes is a ranker, a fake ranker. And yes, that he's assuming that Jinhoo is somebody that kills for fun, just like most of the fake rankers. But yeah, it all plays into what Jinhoo's kind of option here is he wants to get Jinhoo to help him with his, getting his guild, which is interesting. I do like the idea of kind of playing into the business aspects of this whole thing. Obviously, Jinhoo is somebody from a family that is very rich, and he still has this idea that he wants to be a part of this new guild that they're going to start for the company. The company itself going out and acquiring materials from these dungeons and bringing them back. It does make sense as to this being a really good way for him to get that position. So it does play out well, the idea of, okay, if I do a bunch of dungeons, if I do these 20 dungeons with a low ranker like you, it'll definitely work out. Now, the additional perspective that we get from the manhwa, Jinhoo does technically agree with something. In the anime, he literally goes to walk away. I'm not going to do this with some kid. It's too risky, basically. The anime kind of portrayed it as Jinhoo realized this is too risky. I'd be doing this with him. It would get too much attention. People would realize that kind of stuff. all that kind of stuff. But in the manhwa, Jinhoo technically agrees. He actually gives Jinhoo a option. I will do this, but it's only the two of us. So he's technically agreeing to it in the manhwa. He literally right here agreed to doing it. Whereas the anime, like I said, the anime literally he just steps away and Jinhoo like says, "I'm gonna tell everybody your secret," and he basically gives him a look and walks away. Jinhoo never did that because Jinhoo actually agreed to it, saying that I'll do it, but the two of us has to go alone. He's like, well, you have to have a full group. We'll have people sign it, but we'll go in alone. And his mindset here to kind of bait Jinhoo into it is to say, it'll look even better if the two of us do it alone. So that's very, very, very interesting route to kind of take this. And again, so what I'm guessing is what's going to happen is the next episode, they'll probably meet again and he's going to give him the option of, I'll do it, but we both have to do it solo. Which honestly, from Jinhoo's perspective, that makes perfect sense. You would not want a bunch of people joining them to go in there. If the idea is that he's trying to keep his head low, which is what technically Jinhoo is offering him, like, I'll make sure that nobody else knows. This is a perfect way for you to get jobs without having to worry about your rank. Yeah, it technically makes sense that this is a benefit to Jinhoo. But if they go and do 19 dungeons, they're going to have other people with them. And if the idea is to do it with low rankers, yeah, somebody's going to find out that Jinhoo is very, very powerful. So it does technically make sense from his perspective. And obviously for his desire to make money, it makes perfect sense. Now, what's curious is, and this is where it kind of gets in that realm of where I don't think they'll do this because I know it's going to make too many people angry. But I can totally see that there is two elements of this episode that sort of does imply that they could take an alternate route. Again, that's if it's based on the manhwa and not based off the novel, and the novel's doing this. But what if, where in the manhwa, the idea here is that Jinhoo joins up with Jinhoo and they do two-person dungeons and eventually he gains some wealth that way to help support his mother, whereas in the anime, it's going to go the route of, yes, this elixir that they're now mentioning in the anime, is he's going after the elixir to get the elixir to cure his mother, and he never joins up with Jinhoo. That would be interesting. But yeah, very, very curious episode with all the changes that are, like I said, very, very significant changes in my opinion. Not like it can't pivot back, but maybe it's just kind of trying to show too much too early. And that's their idea there, is just to make it make more sense. Because I think it does help. I think the idea that Jinhoo, when he sees that key, it says elixir, it makes sense why he immediately jumps to that dungeon. Because the idea behind it is that it's an S rank acquisition rank. And so that would make you think that it would take something of a S rank action to get it. Now, he got it because he got a lucky box, which that was kind of interesting, the idea of doubling up the stuff in order to get the secret reward. But it would make sense that you would assume that's going to be an S-rank dungeon. He even makes that conclusion. So it had to have something there to indicate, hey, this is going to be really dangerous, and I need something to push me there. And like I said, I think the system would know that to say, oh, your mom, you need to get that cure, right? You need to go this direction. Which does make me kind of wonder if the manhwa ever mentions the elixir, which again, I don't need to know in the comments. I'm just, like I said, I'm reading alongside the show. I don't need to know any additional stuff. Anyways, that's my thoughts on episode 8. Great animation, as always. The fight itself was really great. I loved a lot of what they did with that whole action scene. I think that it definitely kind of transcends at least the manga in a lot of ways. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure that like button down below, comment, let me know what's the episode. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button's got my content. I do news reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support channel more, add Patreon link, tips link, super thanks, membership button down below. Greatly appreciate what it does, and y'all take care.